What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Facade. I am your host, Gavin J. Gallagher, and on this podcast, I explore the mental and emotional game often playing out subconsciously both in your mind and the mind of everyone else in the real estate or property investment market. The key to success in this game is to master your mindset and behavior, to take control of your thoughts, your emotions, and most importantly, your ego. Welcome to the show. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. And this week I have a guest that I found so interesting to speak to. He is from Vancouver in Canada. And of course, Canada is very much in the papers these days because of all of the unusually aggressive things that Donald Trump is saying. And as I'm recording this, he's just announced his tariffs for the world and stuff. And, it's a very difficult time at the moment. But this conversation took place several weeks ago before all of this took place. And so my guest today is Jason Henneberry. And Jason runs three businesses in the mortgage industry in Canada. And his main business is called Tango Financial. And what started out as a mortgage broker, and we've obviously had mortgage brokers on this show in the past, based in Ireland, but it's very interesting to see the evolution of Jason's business, because he has gone from being a mortgage broker to more of an innovation company that provides services like payroll and things like that for other clients in the mortgage industry. And that has created other opportunities that he's jumped in. So he has tech companies, a software company, and he has a coaching business called Strategy Hub. And I found it so refreshing to talk with somebody about innovation and about the whole space around, mortgages. We go and we buy a property, we use a mortgage, but often we don't think about what's going on in that industry. So I think this is a great conversation, and I think it'll serve a lot of you just to understand how you can take a slightly different approach in the same industry that you're in and suddenly find that you found a really rich source of revenue for your business. So without further ado, my conversation with Jason Henneberry. Jason Henneberry, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Gavin. Appreciate being here, man.
So, Jason, you're coming to us live from Canada. Whereabouts in Canada?
So I'm on the west coast of Canada, Victoria, on Vancouver Island.
Vancouver, yeah. I have a friend who lives out there, and tell me, you and I have had a bit of a discussion before we hit record, and you've got a lot of stuff on the go. How would you describe what you do?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I have a hard time describing what I do. I'm in the Canadian mortgage space, and so I grew up as a mortgage broker, and I basically build systems, anything from payroll and compliance systems to marketing systems for mortgage brokers, real estate agents, and now moving into other industries. So we support some financial planners and accountants as well now.
Oh, interesting. And let me just sort of roll back. When you say you've born into the mortgage industry, take us back to your first sort of job, leaving university or school or whatever. Like, how did you get into this, and what attracted you to it?
Yeah, that's going back a little ways now, about 20 years. But I worked for one of the big banks coming out of university. So one of the major banks in Canada, and kind of like a personal banker type role. And I put up some fairly big numbers on the mortgage side, and someone rescued me out of the branch. So it was a gentleman that came and knocked on my door and said, if you were working in my department, you would only have to do more. You wouldn't have to open bank accounts or sell credit cards. You could just do mortgages, and kind of shone the light on a path. And so that's how I moved into that space. And it wasn't long before you realize that in order to help people as well as you can, you want to have more options. And so rather than just promoting one bank's brand of mortgages, it's better to be an independent mortgage broker where you can kind of make all financial institution products available to clients. And so I made the move into being an independent broker, and that led, one thing leads to another, and you end up further down the road where we are today.
Yeah, and I mean, in that process, if you go back 20 years, obviously you would have seen 2008.
Did.
What did that like? I mean, I can tell you all about 2008 from my perspective, but tell me what it was like from your perspective.
It's funny. It's funny that you mentioned that. So I think you and I probably had maybe not identical experiences, but similar experiences through that period of time. So I started in the business around 2003. By 2005 ish, I was an independent broker, and I'm big into marketing. Like my real passion is marketing, lead gen. In 2006 and 2007, we had a program where we were spending a bunch of money on bus ads and radio ads and flyer drops, and we were driving a lot of attendance. We put 20,000 homeowners through public seminars back in the day, and this is when people would actually get a flyer in the mail and like register to go attend a seminar live down the road, right? So we had a really cool program going, and we'd spent a couple of years refining it, and it was the August of 2008. I realized we were doing a lot. We took $1 billion worth of mortgages over that 2-year period. It was things were going well, but we weren't making any money. And the reason for that is we were spending a fortune on radio, on all the marketing, which was expensive back in the day, getting radio spots. And so August 2008, I remember I wrote the check because you could get crazy deals on traditional advertising if you committed 6 months or 12 months in advance. And I knew my numbers by then. So it was August 2008. I committed to 6 months in advance worth of radios. I printed like 2.4 million flyers. Like everything. So we had our marketing dialed in, which meant I spent about half as much on marketing. And that's where our profit would finally come from the business. And then it was like September 15th or something. I can't remember the exact date. Bottom falls out of the market. And nobody showed up to my seminars for the next 4 months because we were promoting mortgages and financial strategies and buy real estate, all this kind of stuff. And so that shift in 2008 was very difficult for me. And I had to reset a lot of things in my life, very short, like in 2009, 2010 was a big reset period, recovering from that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I spoke to a real estate agent about a year ago, and we were talking about this very moment, and I said like the difference between before and after, and he was explaining how they sold phase one of this new sort of town that they were effectively building, and he said they sold everything off the plan within the first day of the launch, and he said then the next launch, he said they launched the exact same number of units and they didn't sell a single one, and they were just like, oh dear, something really bad is happening in the market here. And
something really, really bad, yeah. Like in that 4-month period, I hit about 2% of our target to recover our marketing in funding volume. And
2%.
It was a complete disaster. Like we had to sell our house, and it was a reset. It was a restart.
Big time, yeah.
You learn from those experiences. And
of course.
You learn how to maybe not put everything at risk in a single moment and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of lessons there that it's funny because I developed a thing called the 4 E's, and it's these 4 things that can, take the legs from under you that you have no control over. And like, of course, your emotions and your ego is one thing that you do have control over if you're aware of the damage that they can do.
Right.
But the economy and then events. So September 11th, 2001, planes hit the Twin Towers. Like that was an event that shifted the market. Nobody could predict it the day before. And if you're, making some sort of a big bet the day before and then suddenly everything changes, like that can bankrupt a person overnight without any warning at all. And so
yeah, for sure. And then some things you can predict. I watch every once in a while. I watch The Big Short, and I realize the signs were there.
They were, yeah.
I wrote the check in August of 2008, but I probably could have paid better attention.
It's like all these things, though. It's like, it's easy in retrospect to say that, but like you saw, if you watch The Big Short, then you saw that Michael Burry, like the character who plays, he's like telling everybody we're going to make a fortune, and they're all screaming at him that they want out and all this, and that would have been very difficult to take. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You would have to question your whether am I right about this? Like there's so many smart people with a lot of money arguing with me. Like
Well,
Maybe
you
I'm
see it
wrong
at the
here.
end of the movie where he says, I'm not doing this anymore."
Yeah.
He wasn't not going to invest anymore. He's obviously made some big plays since then. He's just
Yeah.
like, "I'm just doing this for me," like not
Yeah.
taking
Yeah.
that on anymore for other people. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's so interesting. So, Jason, I mean, going down through your list of things, let's start with your main focus. You've got Tango Financial, and you know you do a lot of different things. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that business and
Yeah. Yeah,
what?
Tango is, so as a mortgage broker, you get busy, and so for me, I found myself building constantly, focusing on ways to bring in new activity for the business, building teams around myself. And so one thing led to another. Before you know it, you've built a lot of systems and processes to really run a team and run a brokerage. And so I just evolved from being a solo entrepreneur into having a team, and then ultimately leveraging those systems into what is today Tango. So Tango is essentially a back office admin platform for other brokerages. So we have about 70 brokerages that plug into us across the country, and we fund, all told, in our environment, we fund about $5 billion worth of mortgages every year. To put that into context, it's about 1% of the Canadian mortgage market. So
Wow.
it's something. It's a nice business. We're really proud of the work that we do to support the people that plug into our infrastructure. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And so instead of somebody with their own brokerage having to figure out payroll and all of this kind of stuff, you just basically do all that sort of heavy lifting, and then they just plug straight into that.
Yeah. The evolution of most mortgage entrepreneurs into owning a brokerage type thing is you're a producing agent, and so making that leap from being responsible for your own earnings to then suddenly being responsible for others, there's a transition period where you're not quite big enough yet to give up your own business, your own book of business. And so for a lot of entrepreneurs in our space, it just makes sense to plug into infrastructure that already exists rather than recreating the wheel. And so we provide that, and it's helped a lot of people make that transition from being a solo entrepreneur to running a team.
I think I completely can relate to that. And in fact, I had one of my guests, a good friend of mine, who is he was the number one sales guy in his company when he was working for somebody else. I think he was selling photocopiers for one of the big companies, and all he did, arrive at work, sell all day, and then when you're leaving the evening, you've made so many calls and you've made so many sales.
Yeah.
And he was absolutely killing it. Like, that's all he did every day, and he was just like, why am I working for somebody else? If I did this for myself, all of that would be mine instead of it being this commission. Sure. And so sets up the business, goes out on his own. And then he suddenly realizes, wow, I've actually got to train people, and I've got to spend time like paying the bank, and I got to go and chase accounts, and I got to go and meet the accountant. And suddenly he realizes he's doing maybe 2 hours a day of sales, and the rest of it is managing his business. And so that's effectively what you're taking off the table for a lot of people.
For a lot of people, yeah. There's a lot to running any business. That's a really good story. It's a really good example of how you make a huge sacrifice initially on your own personal income to create that environment that, and so it's a difficult thing for a lot of people to bite off, and there's a lot of moving parts in the finance space, and so we provide some level of solution for that, so it's good. My own personal story on that is very similar. When I was actually doing mortgages, I had my team and my processes and my online marketing, all that kind of stuff. And I was doing maybe 12 to 15 client calls a day, new inbound sales calls. And so I knew what it was like to make that transition. And there were several years there where my wife, we had many conversations around, wouldn't it be easier if you just did what you used to do rather than trying to build this bigger thing? And, thankfully that investment has paid off in the long run here. But yeah, I think it's every entrepreneur's journey. When you decide to build something bigger than yourself, you're going to sacrifice. You're going to put in more energy, more time, and probably make a little bit less money at first as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell us, Jason, some of a lot of our listeners are from different parts of the world. I mean, obviously there's a big audience in in North America and stuff like that, but we have people in Europe, in Australia, and in South Africa and Singapore. I mean, it's kind of amazing how podcasts are global. Can you just give people an idea of the Canadian market, where it's at? Because the bit of information that I hear is that Canadian housing has just been going up for years. It doesn't seem to like be sort of reaching a top. It just seems to keep going. Is that correct, or is that incorrect?
I think we've seen it flatten out over the last, say, 48 months. So we're just knocking on the door of the next positive cycle, hopefully. So we've just come through maybe 48 months of flat line on purchase prices. Some markets hit worse than others, but when you go from, I think the whole world's experienced this, when you go from rock bottom rates to a significant increase in interest rates, that has an impact on the market. So from a transaction perspective, our real estate market has definitely felt the impact of those rising rates over the last 2 years. What's interesting around price is, for sure, there's been some impact of price, but by and large, most homeowners have just held on to their values. I think we have a lot of equity, and I think that's often overlooked. There is a ton of equity in Canada. And so unless you absolutely need to sell, people just decided to stay on the sidelines over the last couple of years. But we're seeing that activity pick up in the market again. And I don't know that you're going to see skyrocketing prices anytime soon, but we are year over year, quarter over quarter, we're seeing slight increase in values again with more transactions in the market. So it feels like a healthy market for the first time in a while, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting too. And tell me this, like back pre-2008, there was all these really bad habits that certainly speaking from my own local market, people would go and you mentioned a lot of equity. So here in the Irish market, we went through this big increase and there was a huge amount of equity in people. They were immediately given access to it by their bank. And they would use it for lifestyle and improvement, and let's go and buy a foreign property, and let's do this and that. Like, has that been stamped out, or is that back in your opinion?
We have our fair share of that, or have had our fair share of that. I think the federal government tries to put policies in place to limit that, and the way that they do that is by modifying some of the loan ratios that banks and financial institutions are allowed to lend against, without getting too granular on it. If a bank is allowed to have X in outstanding revolving credit, over the last couple of years, that's been tightened up a bit, and so I think that if the products were there, if it was easier to borrow, I think that consumer behavior would come right back, to be honest.
Let's be honest,
Yeah, but I think it's slightly hampered right now just because it is harder to qualify for a mortgage today. It's harder to qualify for a home equity line of credit. And I think that, so we've had our fair share of tap that, tap the equity and enjoy your lifestyle here in Canada as well. Our savings rates are generally down over the last decade. We're similar.
That's what I kind of thought. Tell us a little bit about Strategy Hub, one of your other companies.
Yeah, so Strategy Hub is kind of cool because that's more of an expression of art almost. It's a coaching platform where I've got mortgage brokers and realtors and a few people from other industries in there, and we teach them marketing strategies, business building strategies, and so on. Most of the stuff that we coach on in there revolves around the finance sector in Canada, or the real estate sector in Canada. But that's been a great outlet for me. It's less operational. Like Tango, I build a lot of payroll and compliance systems. I'm responsible for a lot of operational stuff. Through Strategy Hub, I get to kind of interact with people and just help them actually grow their business. And that's led to some really cool things, because with coaching, sometimes it's a small percentage of people that will take all of those ideas and implement them themselves. And so the coaching platform has allowed us to also build some ancillary services around that. So we have a couple of other businesses now that basically people come through our coaching and they're like, this is great, but can you just do it for me? So we also support there. So coaching has also been a great way just to keep a pulse on the market and like understand the pain points of what some of our, the people around me are feeling. So it's kind of fun. It's a really cool environment.
And the like marketing and sales and marketing for the mortgage industry, similar to the real estate industry, like do those kind of strategies that you implement, do they work in all industries, or is it sort of quite tailored?
It's funny that you said that. So I'm working on a project right now inside of all of this. It's a project, but it has applications with any industry. And so what we're really, really big on is referral partner or centers of influences, like partner development and partnerships, because you've heard my story. Like I've been big in consumer advertising and all kinds of stuff. So from a lead generation perspective, I've tried it all. The highest return on investment, or return on effort, I should say, that most entrepreneurs get, if you're a small business or commission sales or anything like that, is partnerships. It's referrals. It's referrals from past clients. It's referrals from it's people who know you, and so we've really been focused on that. And so the platform that we're building right now is called Breaking Bank, and this is a consumer-facing newsletter, kind of an online magazine, and we focus on real estate and finance and wealth strategies, things that move the needle for people, improve cash flow, deal with inflation, all that kind of stuff. So it's the kind of content that we're publishing there are just articles and guidebooks and things, less product focus, more how to and strategic. But what's cool is the way we've built the platform is that all of the partners that direct their clients and their traffic to reading that content, the site is intelligent and it rebrands itself to that partner. So it's one place.
It's white label kind of as
kind of, but it's on the fly. So think about it this way: if you had what's a major news publication in your area?
Well, I mean, use the New York Times, for example.
New York Times as an example. Yeah, fair. We've got a global audience here. So let's say there's an article in the New York Times, and you want to share that. Well, you're kind of, for most people, like you're putting your clients in harm's way, because the New York Times is going to recognize where that traffic came from. They're probably going to have data on the audience member that's coming to visit, and they're going to put ads for your competitors. So if you're a financial planner sharing an article about finance, like dollars to donuts, whatever traffic goes there, they're going to see an ad for some other financial planning company. And so it's not safe. So what we're doing is we're basically saying all the ad space around the articles, we're going to recognize that traffic came from you, and we're going to put your own ads. So you're there. But we take it one step further, and we help our immediate clients provide all of their partners with sharing profiles and things like that. So now it's like one extra layer down. So your referral source can introduce articles that you're focusing on, and their brand will show up and your brand will show up. And so we're having a lot of fun with this. It's getting a ton of traction. And my prediction is, I've been doing this for about 6 months, but I think that by the end of this year, just at the level that we're growing with it, we should be able to get to somewhere around 1 million people per month coming to the site. And it's all through partner marketing, because it's floating everybody's boat in the process. And that's going to allow us to invest more in the platform. And we're hoping that we can maybe ultimately share, because we're building a lot of tech around this to make it happen. And ultimately our goal is to share that tech with other industries. We're just really proving it in Canada in the finance space. So it's really cool. Thanks for asking.
You really have your finger on the pulse in this, because I was listening to the audiobook by Mo Gadat, and it's Scary Smart, I think is the name of the book. And it's all about, AI and all this, but he actually referenced something there which immediately resonated when you were talking about what you're doing. And he was talking about how somebody is, on Google searching, say, an Audi SUV, and they go back in a day later and they're looking at the colors, and and that's a real buying signal. Like, they're starting to really go into the detail. And then in a the day that they decide to go and look again, in that split millisecond, the technology knows, flash a BMW ad up there in front of this, before the person buys the Audi, we can flash a BMW ad up there. And it's exactly like what you're saying. And people, I don't think people realize just how smart the technology is getting.
Very, very smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so probably the most valuable asset that any, small businesses, entrepreneurs have is their list. It's their audience. This, you're growing your social profile. You were sharing some of the success you're having there. Congrats, by the way. At the end of the day, you want to, if you can, in the best way possible, control that experience, rather than having other entities control that experience for you. So wouldn't it be nice if Audi could control what ad got put in front of that visitor, not BMW, right?
Yeah.
Right now, the clicks go to the highest bidder, and we want to change. We're trying to change that for the small business owner.
And tell us just a quick sideline, like, given all your experience and stuff, and you just mentioned what my social media is doing lately, like what bit of advice would you give if you were speaking to one of your broker partners, or anybody that was having sort of social media success? What would be the strategy you'd point them towards?
So 100%, we coach on this. Is you want to leverage these platforms. So you want to convert that audience and those eyeballs into a list that you can own and control. And so
email list.
It's about converting that traffic into growing your list, and then you want to nurture that list. And so the tools and the elements that we just talked about are really about growing the list and nurturing the list and reinforcing your brand with every interaction. But but it's like, how do you get that list? And so now you want to be doing things on social. And I think it's pretty evident with some of the events that have happened this year, and with TikTok and all this stuff, like the algorithms change. You can have an audience, but you don't control it, you don't own it. It can be taken away at any moment. So yes, we should be doing these things. We should be leveraging all these platforms as much as possible. But every interaction should try to be to like bring that person either into your community or your list. And so the way to do that is, by offering. There's lots of different strategies, but one of the ways that we coach is by saying, in your videos that you're doing, to say, hey, look, this thing that I'm talking to you about, I've got more info on it, and if you want that, comment, and I'll send you that info, whatever that is. It could be a lead magnet, digital asset, PDF, and so we're building all those kind of digital assets for our community, and we're coaching them to go out there, talk about these things, drive the traffic, and grow your list, and then continue to put your brand in front of that list. That is like the gameplay for everybody.
Yeah, that's something. It's funny. It's when you say it like that, it's so clear, and yet it's finding the time to do these things and the various kind of systems that you have to put in place. It can be time consuming and daunting for people that have a busy 9 to 5 as it is.
Yeah, very difficult. We were talking about that too. Like I don't have as much time for some aspects of the business that I'd like anymore, and sometimes you gotta, it's difficult to nail it across the board on all aspects. 100%. Stuff.
One of the things that you were mentioning as well is that another of your entities that you're working on is the VIP Club, and I found it really interesting what you're talking about, the contests and stuff like that. So why don't you just spell out? I know we already talked about it, but it was before we hit record.
Sure. I mean, it's part and parcel. It's actually part of, I said this other thing was a project. This is a project inside of the VIP Club. So thanks for mentioning that. The VIP Club is really, we just take, and anybody can do this. So for anybody who's listening, we add a contest element to people's newsletters. So we send about 5 million newsletter emails out a year now for our customers. And we always add a contest to that, and we get really, really high engagement. So we get like 50-60% open rates, and we get somewhere between 15 and, depending on your relationship with your list, between 15 and 20% engagement. And so when most industries will see, like in our like real estate and mortgage space, the average newsletter gets like a 20-25% open and a 1 to 3% click.
Yeah.
A click is like, now they're going somewhere, but not. So when we say we get like a 15 to 20% engagement, that's not a click. that's actually someone interacting with you, like taking the action that you want. And so the way we do it is we put these crazy prizes out in our newsletters. It's like enter this contest, win a flat screen TV or a trip for two, or like grand prizes. And they're pooled giveaways with our community. So it looks like you, Gavin, when you send out your newsletter, you're giving away a flat screen this month. And in order to enter that contest, people have to answer a question. And we keep this stuff pretty light. It's like, what are you doing for the holidays with your family? Like that kind of a question. And you'll be surprised how many people, like very well, it's 15 to 20% of people will answer those questions, and they will, and then you learn something about your audience. And it gives you, the way we've built the platform is it gives you an opportunity to reply back. And so it causes conversations and a lot of learning, and it just builds better relationships with people. So if you're listening to this, run a contest, add a contest to your newsletter, give stuff away.
What I love about your idea, Jason, is to pool it so that, because as I said to you earlier, when I was growing my social media LinkedIn account, I gave away an iPad at one stage, and it's about 750 or 799 euro for an iPad. And I can remember thinking to myself, well, I won't be doing this every month because, obviously that would add up. But you pool all of your clients so that the one contest, they're all sharing in it.
Correct. So we have a contest widget essentially, and you can, it's like $99 a month, and you can add basically $1,000 grand prize, and you're part of a pool, and everybody's essentially entering that same contest. What's cool about it is next month when you send your next newsletter, we announce the prize winners. These are real winners. And so the way it comes across when you embed the widget in your newsletter is, it's like, hey, this month I'm giving away an iPad, and congratulations to, Bob and Ann, who won the cruise
holiday
vacation last month. And Bob and Ann are real. They did win from the pool. And so it just creates a ton of engagement, and the prizes are fun. It's a great way to just build a better relationship with your list.
That's huge. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that, in terms of the engagement, like to 10x the engagement like that, what other strategies would you suggest?
There's a lot of nuances to it. So we're good at writing subject lines, and we're good at creating the content, and having digital assets that people can, so you want all these elements. But what we found is you can remove a lot of those elements and just tell people you're gonna give them a cool prize, and it really doesn't change it too much. So there's like optimizing and getting real good, but you get a lot of impact off of just giving something away if you do it right.
Yeah. Something I took a note anyway. A contest. So anyone listening now, there's going to be a contest coming up soon. So
there you go.
Yeah. And tell us, Jason, what are some of the rookie mistakes that you've seen in your career that you could like to warn people about?
I got more than I care to share. More than we have time for, Gavin.
Yeah.
For myself, I've always just. I think the thing that's worked best for me, and this might not work for everybody, but is get it out there, test it, like get feedback from your customer as soon as you possibly can, and then iterate. I think the mistake that I see too many people making is they try to get it right. They have a vision for what they're building, or like if it's a product, it's a service, whatever it is, and too much time goes into trying to make it perfect before you launch it.
Yeah.
And no matter what it is that you put out in the market, it won't quite be the thing that people want. And so why spend a ton of time on that? So minimum viable product, get it out there. I've done this a couple of times. I built a platform called Lender Spotlight in the mortgage industry, sold it to Rocket Mortgage, a Canadian subsidiary of Rocket Mortgage. And the way we did that is we were just solving our own itch, and we realized we had come up with a really cool mortgage rate filtering algorithm. And we put a little bit of effort into it, but we put the first product in market. It took us 30 days to develop the first version of the product.
Wow.
And we gave it away to the industry. And within 30 days after that, we had 1,000 users. And we took all kinds of complaints. It was a horrible experience on our side, but we learned from it. And we identified through that process the features that people really wanted and what they would pay for. And it was just 3 months later, we had a paid version. And we sold the platform, like I said, but at the time that we sold it, we had 50% industry adoption. It's because we built what people wanted. So
Yeah.
we're doing that. We're following that same process. A moment ago, I told you about Breaking Bank and the features and the sharing and stuff like that. We launched that. We launched Breaking Bank inside of the VIP Club 4 months ago, just August, like 5 months ago, and then we took 150 users in, essentially not charging them, and we learned how people wanted to use it. And we thought that initially it would just be, oh, you'll share some content, but before long they were sharing that content with their database, and then there were partners in that database that were reaching out saying, hey, I'm a financial planner, can I use this too? And then we realized, we're like, oh yeah, there's like layers to this thing, and so now we've got all these partner features that people are willing to pay for. And so we've been able to move the needle real fast on that product, because we were not afraid to just put it out there and ask people what they wanted from it. Yeah. And so, real time right now, we're launching version 2, and we're hoping to go from 150 users to 1,000 users in the next 60 days. So, I would say that's the biggest thing I see. I see so many people like worried about putting it out there. I think just do it if you can.
It's funny you say that, because I think it was Mark Andreessen or somebody who said, like, if the first version you put out there, if you're not embarrassed about it, you waited too long.
Yeah.
And
I've heard that. And it's a good quote. So
it is, yeah. And there's a chap called Daniel Priestley who I've had on the podcast, and Daniel is he's a good guy. And I've done a lot of stuff with him, and he was saying like that, don't even build it, find out what they want, like through like creating questionnaire, like a kind of a list, and say, we're thinking about building this, would you be interested? And you get like 1,000 people will tell you yes. Whereas
that's how we launched Strategy Hub. I literally put an email out to the community and I said, I'm thinking about doing a coaching group, what would you want me to coach on? And
sure enough, you have it. Yeah,
we have almost 1,000 customers in that coaching
and the amount of people that would build a platform and record like 200 videos and do all of this stuff and spend all this money, and then say, okay, now it's ready to launch, and then you find that 6 people are interested, and you suddenly go, oh my god, like disaster.
Yeah. People like community too. Like if you're someone listening to this, like, man, I got an idea for something and I want to put it out there. What made Strategy Hub work in the early days, it's different now because it evolves and you get more people in. But when I first launched it, I literally put it out to the group like, I've got an idea of where we can take this, but I'm looking for people to help me figure that out in the process. Like, I want you to help me figure out what it becomes. And the kind of people that signed up were very eager to support and help come up with ideas. And then they were also community ambassadors when we brought new people in. They were so switched on. They were so like engaged in what we were building. And so, yeah, it's a great way to put it out there. Is just say, what do you want? And so,
yeah. You're excited about that at the moment anyway. You can tell when you're talking about it.
As I've been involved in things where we map it out. Anything that I've spent a long period of time mapping out to try to get the plan right, those businesses have not worked. I've had a few failures, so yeah.
Like us all. And tell us, Jason, like, what else are you excited about at the moment?
Yeah, I'm just not good at planning.
Slowly dawning on you. What other things are you working on that you're excited about at the moment?
These are it. The newsletter, engaging and nurturing your list stuff is really top of mind. So I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to chat about some of those things because it's okay. They're fun projects.
And tell me this, like, clearly you're a creative, innovative guy. I mean, do you have a routine? Like, how do you come up with the ideas and stuff? Some people have like morning routines and they do the deep work in the morning. And
I'm not that guy. I've got 3 teenage kids. I run 3 businesses. I've got some of those businesses are larger than others. There's always fires to put out. I don't get up early. I go to bed late. I go to bed early, but I don't get up too early. And I just kind of like go with the flow. So all this stuff that you see out there, all these routines, like, they're not for me. I just sort of deal with what's in front of me. I have a big plan. I have a master plan for where I'm taking these businesses, but I've also learned to just be patient. And not give myself, I give myself a break and take my time to achieve those goals. And I find that, I guess I'm also kind of fortunate that I'm in a good place, probably earlier in my career when you're getting the first couple of things off the ground. Every minute counts, every dollar counts.
Yeah.
I'm at a place where I can afford to take my time with stuff and put the feelers out and see what the market has to say, and really. So, but I'm fine. I'm able to do a better job for people because I'm flexible in that way. So yeah, there's no regimen at all, man. I wake up, make a cup of coffee, and open my email and see what's hitting me in the face that day. I know it doesn't. That's not a very sexy answer, but
no. As we say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. It's if the system works for you, well then great. No, I'm just curious because I've had different people on, and they have all these systems, and then there's people like yourself who just go with the flow. And so
I'll tell you what I do though. I very quickly operationalize things and get it off my desk. And so I'm very quick to try new things. If maybe this is helpful, try new things. And when I find something that works, I do the work myself, and I find the pain points in that, and I quickly systematize that, and then I staff it out. So I'm free to think creatively about what next.
So let's take us through that systemizing, because this is a bit that I actually feel I'm quite weak on. I will do something and I find the efficiency and I'll do it myself, but then passing it on to somebody. How do you go about doing that?
So I get bored quickly, and I'm lazy, which is weird for a guy who runs 3 businesses, right? But I really am. I don't like doing the same thing over and over again. But I recognize the importance of having a defined, like a system that is repeatable. So if you want to build any kind of scalable revenue source, you got to be, customer A needs to be treated the same as customer C, and so on. So I see the value in that. I just don't like doing it myself. And then I've learned to try to make my business ideas, the actual implementation of them, as simple as possible, so that I can hand off that work. So yeah, but almost everything around me, like every job around me, I've done. So I'm doing that right now for Breaking Bank. I'm setting up profiles. I'm setting up, like, sharing links. I'm welcoming people. I'm writing the art, the content. Like, so much work right now. But I'm quickly moving to systematizing those things and then handing them off, so that we can grow the business. So I think if there was a way to do it, I think it's just like, you just got to do it yourself and look for those. And I think for yourself, like if you have things that you do that is exactly the same every single day, then you probably could give that to someone else. You probably could.
Yeah, it's just because I've heard different people talking about this, and I heard somebody talking about, for example, now most of us are working on a laptop or whatever, and so clicking onto the Loom video and recording as you're doing the work, to actually record yourself doing the work and talk yourself through it. And then after you've created that video, you can drop the transcript into ChatGPT and say, tidy this up and turn it into a system or something like that.
I don't even do that. I record everything. I Loom all day long with people. Anytime someone sends me an email with a question, I Loom it back.
Okay. Interesting.
All the time, even like simple stuff. I find it allows me to build better relationships with people. But for sure, for my teams, when someone has a question about a system thing, I'll go do it and I'll show them, and then I'll send them the Loom. And then I find that works really well. I very rarely have to teach someone something twice, because I take the time to teach them once with a video walkthrough. But I don't take it a step further and say, create you could do that. You could then operationalize.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And you can create a library then of Loom videos that you can just say, hello, new staff member. There you go. Watch everything. Yeah. Spend the next week watching all that stuff.
Spend the next week watching all that stuff. Yeah, it's so there's different ways to use it. I use a version of that process all day, every day.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. That's a valuable one. So tell us, Jason, I'm conscious of time. I usually ask my guests this question. 2 questions. First of all, what would you say is the best advice that you've gotten in your career?
Yeah. The best advice, but maybe I have a harder time applying it, is not to be too eager to jump on the opportunity. Like whatever that opportunity will probably, like more often than not, the opportunities do come around again. So for me, along the way, I've been very eager to be like, oh, I'll do that. I'll do that too. I'll do that too. I'll do that. Like, that's a good idea. I'll do that too, because you don't want anything to fall through the cracks and you end up getting overwhelmed. And so being more intentional, being more focused. So I run several things, but really I have teams in place running those things. And so I'm very focused and intentional on one thing, and at a time. And then I operationalize that, and I really am getting better at not letting new things come in. So I'm steadfastly focused on getting that project to the next phase so that I can get it off my desk and so that it grows. So I think that that's good advice. You hear a lot of people talking about that, like Alex Hormozy or Dan Martell. These guys talk about like, do one thing. Yeah. And what's interesting about those types of guys is none of them do one thing. They all have multiple revenue streams. What they really mean is like focus and get that one thing to a certain level of completion before you do the next. Yeah. And I'm guilty earlier on in my career of saying yes to everything and having a lot more failures. And I'm better now at focusing, but then I'm also very quick at get it to a stage where it can be self-sufficient and grow. And that's a bit of you learn that. That takes time to learn that process.
It's the whole thing, FOMO, really, isn't it? It's like having control over the fear of missing out, and your emotions. Yeah. The grass is always greener on the other side. Like so many people, rather than focus on what you have and the low-hanging fruit that might be there in front of you, they're like, oh, that other industry looks like it's smashing it at the moment. I think I'll jump into that rather than tap what you have.
100%. I've made some moves in the past 12 months that have, because we're obviously launching a new business. So there's like a heavy investment right now into technology on that side, and just really modeling out that new business and how it's going to work, because we want to make sure it's working well. And then at the same time, you've got investment market, like capital markets and, crypto. There's stuff that's popping like crazy.
Yeah.
And so I'm real time. I'm personally feeling FOMO in that I've put my capital into a project, and I probably could grab some extra and go over here. But I'm like, I'm letting it go. I'm gonna make sure that this thing runs. I'll leapfrog whatever gains I could have had there, and then I'll catch the next cycle. That we know. So that's a good example of like that opportunity that'll come back. There will be another cycle. It might be painful watching it go for a minute.
Yeah.
But, so you can only do so many things, and don't beat yourself up if you're not doing all the things.
Yeah, it's so true. We've all had our Bitcoin moment where you remember that time that you were thinking of buying and you didn't. And mine, unfortunately, is at $92. That's when I first discovered Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And didn't pile in because it had jumped from 92 to 140, and I thought that 50% jump was too big for me to jump in straight away.
Yeah, that would have been good. Well, how about this? How about owning a bunch of XRP and then liquidating it when it's down to focus on a new project? So I'm currently going through the emotion of that because not long ago I owned a bunch of XRP, but I've made a commitment to this new venture. So I'm real time experiencing what it's like to be like, whoa, wait a second, had I just not touched that, it would have been like, I'd be way further ahead. But now I'm feeling scrappy, and I'm very much like, I've got to beat that return. And so I know this is going to work. Yeah.
All in.
Yeah.
Jason, the final question, given the detailed answer there, this may be the same answer, but I normally say, like, if you're, it's 20 years now that you've been in business since you left university. Like, if you were to go back and have a word with that 20-year-old or 18-year-old, like, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Yeah, other than go buy Bitcoin at $92. Yeah. I think it's a similar version. This one particular issue, like being too eager and feeling like I've got to do that now, that's been a problem for me. And so I do feel like I'm better at it now, but that it would be a similar version of that is take your time, focus one project at a time, and build the thing that will help you pay for building the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I'm finally figuring out that recipe. So yeah, and anything will work. Like,
Yeah.
you have a way of making money that is completely different from the way I have of making money. And every person listening to this right now makes money a different way. There are a billion ways to make money. And so that is not the problem. The problem is just honing in and focusing on one way. And even if it's I just need to get to $100,000 a year, or I need to get to $500,000 a year, or $1 million a year, you do not need to go build $1 billion company. Figure out what it is for you, focus, hit that goal, and just try to make sure that goal has enough buffer in it that it can give you the freedom to go and then add to it. And then you just watch and repeat that process. That's a great career.
It's great advice. It's like they say, people are called serial entrepreneurs because they do one thing after another. It's not parallel entrepreneurs where you see the kind of, you see guys saying, oh, I have, 18 businesses all at the same time, but like how many of them are performing well,
Sure. Yeah. I've had moments where I have 7 or 8 businesses, and today I have 3 and then projects within that. So I agree. You can dilute yourself pretty fast.
Jason, how can people find out more about you?
I'm fairly easy to find. Just my handle is at Jason Henneberry. So Henneberry is HENNEBERRY, and
I'll put
Instagram,
links,
Facebook, wherever. So
I'll put some links in the show notes, and when we're sharing this out, I'll make sure to tag you in LinkedIn and places.
Yeah,
like
anybody
that,
who wants to find me, just do a DM, and I'm pretty good at responding to those.
Brilliant. Well, Jason, wishing you every success. I'm really enjoyed our conversation today.
Thanks, Gavin. Thanks for having me on the show. Same here.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Jason. Be sure to go and follow his various handles that he described there in the show. And look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Take care. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Facade. If you enjoyed the show or found it useful in any way, could I please ask you to take a moment to leave a review over on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. There is no algorithm for the podcast, and so the only way we can get other people to find out about it is when it's shared by you. So if you can do that, it'd be great. If you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover on future episodes, please connect with me via the school community, or just send me a message on Instagram or wherever. You'll see the links in the show notes below. You can stay up to date with all of my content and the projects that I'm working on by signing up for my weekly newsletter, and you'll find a link below in the show notes for that too. That's all for now, guys. I'll see you back here same time next week.